I just had a Biden moment when I had forgotten what I was thinking, and it reminded me of Mr. Joe Biden, who, he said he told people they weren't black if they didn't vote for him.
Yep.
And then he also in 2019 blamed effectively black voters for the cocaine epidemic. And let's hear a little bit of what he had to say, because look who called him out, fam.
Oh God, it wasn't
on drugs was one that Pat Moynihan, and he's a great guy. You remember the crack epidemic came from the Bahamas, and we were told by medical doctors at the time that because it permeated the membrane of the brain more quickly, it was the crack you never come back. It was somehow fundamentally different than someone in a beautiful neighborhood like this sniffing a line of cocaine would get not automatic sentence for. On drugs was one that Pat Moynihan, and he's a...
Okay. And then, so...
What's his name? Pat Moynihan.
Pat Moynihan.
He says it's way more dangerous, fam, so we got to listen to this son of a bitch, and we got to punish people of color more. Harder than white people.
Mr. Crime Bill, right? Yeah. And then he was also... the second part, he goes on to talk about this, and in retrospect, I'm going to talk about what exactly... He blames it on black people, but the CIA, of course, our CIA that overthrows governments and causes regime change in multiple countries, was actually responsible for the cocaine and crack epidemic.
To the core.
Exactly. Directly to the core. To the core.
Yeah. And let me just say this much, too, as well. As I'm having a Joe Biden moment. What he's trying to say, he's trying to justify the crime bill. He's trying to justify the Rockefeller laws, which punished crack offenders harder than cocaine offenders, which we know back in the days, the cocaine users were in the discos. They look like me, you know what I'm saying? Like that Danny Terrio dancing on the dance floor and stuff. While in the ghetto or the smaller the more damaged part of times, the poorer areas were using crack because it was more it was a residue of cocaine, and he was trying to justify the punishment of crack over cocaine, and it's just a crock of shit. It really is. Yeah.
And basically the background on this, just to put it simply, is there's a really good article you guys should check out, and Johnny can pull it up, and it's called The CIA, Contras, Gangs, and Crack. Mm-hmm. They go through how everything that the CIA has pushed every person, and they talk about crack and what specifically, of course, this happened in Los Angeles. That was the capital of crack cocaine. But he goes on to say, in August of 1996, the San Jose Mercury News initiated an extended series of articles linking the CIA's Contra Army to the crack cocaine epidemic in Los Angeles. Based on a year-long investigation, reporter Gary Webb wrote that during the 1980s, the CIA helped finance its covert war against the Nicaragua's leftist government through sales of cut-rate cocaine to South Central LA drug dealer Ricky Ross. This series unleashed a storm of protests spearheaded by black radio stations in the Congressional Black Caucus with demands for official inquiries. Okay, Pasta, what can you tell me about Rick Ross and how that whole thing went down?
Well, what was going on, and we've talked about this before, and first of all, I just want to say, when it comes to the crime bill, when it comes to the Rockefeller laws, as far as treating crack cocaine on a different level than cocaine, it's like giving somebody a harsher penalty for smoking a spliff, which is tobacco with a little marijuana, than giving somebody who got arrested for shatter, which is like pure, intense THC. In other words, they're trying to justify and say that this is harder on you when it's a lot less of the actual drug and the substance itself than like cocaine was. And remember, it's the residue of cocaine. Okay, but when Biden stands behind this, it's what he's standing behind is what we're reading about right now, which is Freeway Rick Ross, who was given money by the CIA and cocaine and crack by the CIA to go sell on the streets, and then in turn take that money, buy weapons, and to then arm the Contras who were trying to maintain control over the Sandinistas in Nicaragua.
And the Contras are the neoliberal warmongering the puppet government that we pushed in.
Yes, and it's important to say, fam, when Joe Biden says this right here, he's been exposed. Yeah. He is standing behind imperialism. That's what he's doing. He's justifying the actual mechanisms that we use, ignoring where the root of the problem came by, because he's for it. He's for regime change. Joe Biden is a regime change aficionado, and this exposes him right here. This little thing, when he's trying to justify about crack cocaine over cocaine and the ways it went about and how it was created, it wasn't created in the fucking Bahamas. No, it was created by the CIA to get out in the streets, freeway Rick Ross over the regular Rick Ross who sued Rick Ross. That's why Rick Ross became the popularity, because he took the name of Freeway Rick Ross, because Freeway Rick Ross was a gangster, fam.
Yeah. And it just shows you how Joe Biden would be as a president. Like, he would just continue the disastrous criminal prosecutions. He wouldn't reform our criminal justice system. And of course, it also tells you this: he's on the side of the CIA and the military-industrial complex.
He's an
because
imperialist.
that's how deep it goes. It's more than him just being racist or racially blind, because he is. He's blaming a minority. It's always easier to blame the minorities for everything. He's literally doing what the Democrats criticize the Republicans of doing. That's what Joe Biden was doing a year ago. When we could have stopped him. And I'm just going to finish off by saying, reading this part of his article, which is really important. Much of the CIA Contra drug story had been revealed years ago in the press and in congressional hearings. The Mercury News series added a critical missing link. It followed the cocaine trail to Ross and black LA gangs who became street-level distributors of crack, a cheap and powerful form of cocaine. The CIA's drug network, wrote Webb, opened the first pipeline between Colombia's cocaine cartels and the black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, a city now known as the crack capital of the world. Black gangs use their profits to buy automatic weapons, like Pasta said, sometimes one from the CIA-linked drug dealers. So this does a whole link all the way up to the Colombian drug war. So this is our war on drugs. We funded the war on drugs to fund our CIA operations. That's basically it. There's no if, maybe, no. These are facts. That is the truth.
And these things go deep rooted. This is the reason why the NED and all these other NGOs were created, because they got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. There was the whole Iran-Contra scandal where Reagan had to fire half of his cabinet because of this shit, because Webb exposed this shit and it got so big that Reagan had to do something. But then out of this was born the NED, National Endowment for Democracy, where instead of selling crack cocaine on the streets to buy weapons, and the weapons go in the hands of the LA gang members and the Contras, now they just use our tax money and take a piece of it and give it to the NED and kind of hide behind their empire mechanisms, their imperialist mechanisms. That's how deep this situation goes. And what Biden said last year, it's just a big time exposure.
And not to mention, fam, that those people are now, they have kids. These people go to jail. It sets the whole remainder of that family up for failure. And then you have
the private prison system, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's
another money funneling machine. And Webb, who exposed the story on Mercury News, was pushed out by the mainstream media. The New York Times, if you read the article further on, which I recommend again, the New York Times and the mainstream media completely denied Mercury News's report, Webb's report, and he was pretty much discredited.
He was thrown out of that
by
whole
everybody else.
Because that, once again, that's at that time the elites were starting to grab up all the media avenues, and they kind of shunned him. It said that he killed himself, but we don't know. A lot of people think he was murdered as well, fam. So before we get on to the next topic, can I say hi to some people on Rockman?
Real quick, so to summarize,
Summarize.
You're saying that the CIA funded drug dealers in the U.S., got the drugs from Colombia, and basically created that culture in the black community.
Yeah.
And then also created private prisons.
At that time.
Private prisons.
So what you're getting to is that, in a way, that is a form of keeping people imprisoned, enslaved. I mean, I'm not even.
It is. It's a form of control.
That is what they did, and they didn't do it only to the black community. They did it to the Latino community. You can look at throughout LA and look at the gangs, and a lot of kids. We have our friend Jen Aber who works with the prisoners. And a lot of these people immigrated from other countries. And so now that they have a criminal record, if they get released, they're going to be deported to their countries, and then they will meet their fate there because they were part of that, like, MS-13 or whatever gang, and they have to pay because that's how it is. And that is what we have done with our foreign policy and our criminal justice system, flat out.
This is a perfect picture, Johnny, of imperialism. Right here. This is imperialism right here. And this is the whole system. This is about...
This is a tie.
Yeah.
How you tie the foreign policy imperialism to our very people here in the city.
And the domestic policy, too, that was going with it.
Right.
To say, once again, can you imagine getting more punishment for a spliff? You have a joint that has marijuana and tobacco in it. Tobacco's legal.
Nicotine.
Little marijuana, you know what I'm saying? But the little amounts of marijuana, you're going to get punished harder if you were found with a sheet of that shatter stuff, which is pure, intense THC, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But once again, who uses those things and who uses the other?
Right.
It was big in the black community, and it's the most, once again, and then going and giving weapons for talking about elites in Nicaragua to hold power over, once again, a socialist kind of mentality, a company, Daniel Ortega and
may
those people.
I add that the CIA dealers who sold the weapons to the black gang members got one of them got 24 months in jail, and then was contracted by the DEA to be in a top level position, while the people, the gang members and the drug dealers, of course, are probably still in jail. That is the difference here. That is not just a racial difference. That is a power difference. It's a class difference as well.
Remember, we wanted Nicaragua too, just the way we wanted Honduras, the way we wanted Guatemala.
Panama.
We want all their natural resources. Fucking bananas. Bananas. I mean, I know it's a joke, but how many bananas are sold in the U.S. and it's owned by one corporation because we said we don't want the government? That government used that particular resource to give social programs to their people: education, food, water, shelter, and it was taken away from them. So the UFC, the United Fruit fucking Company, can fucking own that, and now it's Dole and Chiquita. So it funnels down to one person, a group of people, rather than a whole society and a whole culture that could live off those resources. You know what I'm saying? They pretty much took the freaking bananas and took it for themselves, socialized it, you know?
For the resources to create capitalism and then to put down any socialism in the world.
Especially in Latin America. They don't want these brown people.
No. They don't want to. We can't see they're getting education. They're having a great society. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a shame.
Now.